Australian Government is pleased to be able to support projects such as Victorian Women's Link as they help continue with this tradition of building a dynamic and inclusive society. We provided $50,000 in funding for the project through our community relations initiative, Diverse Australia. We don't hand out money without good reason. We examine projects, we judge whether they're going to be effective to our mind. Each project goes through a rigorous assessment process to make sure we're supporting projects of high quality that meet a real need in each community. I was very impressed to see the Victorian Immigrant Refugees Women's Coalition devotes more than 90% of its funding to community projects and has managed over 30 projects in 8 years of operation. I'm sure the excellent track record was a compelling factor in the grant of funding, as well as the high quality of the project you proposed.
I'm Margot Kelly, and I'm the Victorian Region President of Sir Optimist International.
Hello, my name's Coral Ross. I'm representing the Victorian Local Governance Association, and I'm a councillor at the City of Boroondara.
I'm the Executive Officer of the Women's Coalition. Kingston City Council Community Development Board.
I'm Janice Rowe. I'm the Coordinator of Community Development at Kingston Council. I'm Frederica Pine-Wyndham and I'm a social work student at Kingston Council.
I'm Michelle MacDonald. I'm a social planning coordinator at Wyndham Council.
And I'm Faye Jutes. I'm a member of the Zombie Club of Melbourne's West, and we are a women's service club.
I'm Sarah Colvin. I'm from the VLGA, the Victorian Local Governance Association. I'm actually here on behalf of Linda Bennett, who's the Women's Project Officer at VLGA. So
Thanks, Sarah.
I'm only here today.
I'm Kerry McConnell. I'm a member of the Yarraville Rotary Club, and I'm here as the Chairperson Community Support for Rotary District 9A.
I'm Jill Scanlon. I'm the Coordinator of Community Safety and Development at Hume City Council. I'm Claire Nugent. I'm Vice President of the National Council of Women of Victoria.
Now the question was why Kingston, why Hume, and why Wyndham? Because we were the ones who wrote the project proposal. We decided that it has to be areas where we are strong, where we do have good connections, where we have a good number of women's groups. And these are the three areas that we have really built a strength in.
Hume, and certainly social development in particular, are using that social justice framework and human rights framework in everything that we try and do with our communities as well. So there's all of those things that each of us brings, I think, to and our understanding of the women's groups we might need to target and the links within the communities there already.
So in terms of this project would be bringing different groups together, but the priority would be to get them to use our services, so to link them in, to make that sustainable in terms of their connection. And I've heard a statistic too just yesterday about in terms of connecting people to a new community, you have to do it within the first 18 months of them getting there. So, and so then they'll be connected forever. But if you leave it longer than that, they're less likely to ever go to the community centre or ever likely to join a resident association or a community group.
The avenues that you're talking about in terms of engagement, we experience, because we have quite transient areas as well, like the area that Amara works in Clayton South. We have a very high transient population in there with skilled migrants, international students coming in. So it's a similar issue that you need to connect people in to their local area very quickly and get them using council services, get them familiar with the different projects that we operate. Otherwise we lose them and they become more and more disconnected and isolated. So there is great similarities between the growth areas and I think some of the metro areas.
Mrs. Jan de Creta, Chief Patron of the Victorian Immigrant and Refugee Women's Coalition and wife of the Governor of Victoria. The Honourable Laurie Ferguson, Parliamentary Secretary for Citizenship and Settlement Services. Members of Victorian Women's Links Project, Advisory Committee, members of VIRWC, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Junaid Horani and I'm the chair of the VIRWC. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for coming today to celebrate with us Harmony Day, which also marks the launch of the Victorian Immigrant and Refugee Women's Coalition project, Victorian Women's Links.
From me to you, I wish you well, my friend. And with these flowers, I'll say goodbye. Will you remember me?
Women recognise by using their networks what is the same about us all, rather than focusing on what is different. And that is the joy of what these groups achieve under the umbrella of the VIRWC. And they leave behind the traditional rivalries and encourage their menfolk to do the same and learn new ways to relate in this new country. But it is particularly the acceptance of difference that impresses me.
I just want to thank everyone for coming today. It's really, for us, this project is very, very important because we, in Immigrant and Refugee Women's Coalition, we have struggled very much to work amongst ourselves, and we found out that as women we have so much in common. But then we would really like to work more actively now with our mainstream women sisters.
When we talk participation, in local government, sometimes people just want people to come into a room and they say, oh, we had 60 people there and they participated, they filled in the form. But I think what's really good about this project is that it's going to create some opportunities for women to meet like-minded women, but from unusual settings.
The lady behind me who mentioned about, women who do have overseas qualifications but are having difficulties getting employment. It's really about supporting them along the way in terms of providing them information and places where they can be connected to get that support. I think that's where a lot of the issues are. And sometimes there are high expectations of individuals thinking that once they do come to Australia that they're going to get a job straight away, and that's not always the case. But I think, that strong networking, and we're women of all diverse backgrounds, whether you're an Australian or a migrant or a refugee, we're just people from diverse backgrounds with very different personalities, different skills and different faiths. So I think when you've got a group of women, I think when you network, you're going to achieve something anyway. I think it's bringing those people who aren't networking, who are isolated. If you bring them here, then we're going to be able to progress.
It's fine to say that it's great that we can take advantage of the education, but some migrants are not able to, and that's migrants that come through New Zealand, because they'll be deemed as overseas students. So even though legally they can remain here for whenever, but the problem is that if they want to exercise education, they're deemed as overseas students. So that's why you'll find that Pacific Islanders are going to be a big issue. And sometimes, you mentioned priming, you mentioned, other stuff. that would be a big issue in my community, and that is we can't exercise education.
I don't think we're being heard. I don't think you're taking domestic violence seriously. So I'd like to finish by saying that I think that too often all women are missing from the picture, and far too often immigrant and refugee women are missing from the picture. And I think that's bad for everyone's health, and it's bad for our community, because where we're missing the contribution of immigrant and refugee women, we have a weaker community.
What is your relationship with other communities in Hume? How can people develop better relationships with other communities? What projects are you involved in where relationships are developed, networks are developed between mainstream and non-mainstream communities? What strategies work effectively in relationship building?
Language is power. You'll never, in fact, really improve the externals if women don't have the power to communicate what it is they want done in the externals. I think language is at the heart of both the internal and the external.
I think the power comes from knowledge. If you've got the knowledge, somehow you will access a service, whether you speak English or whether it's with an interpreter. So yes, I agree with you, but I just believe that knowledge is really powerful, and therefore you can vocalise your entitlements or your rights or your information. But I just think knowledge is extremely important.
All people have an opportunity to succeed. All people have the opportunity to have a say, and all people have the opportunity to be respected. I couldn't have done any of the things we've done, without being in partnership with people like Melba and others. But I couldn't have done it without a clear set of values. The best leaders are the ones who you're absolutely clear about what they stand for. My heroes and heroines are not only what they stand for, but that they live what they say they stand for. If they say they stand for respect, then they practice respect. If they say they stand for equity, then they practice equity. You don't say you stand for equity or respect of cultures and then act in your personal life as though you don't. What is leadership? What's the real essence of leadership? Well, for me, it is about enhancing humanity. That for me is by the way you act, by the way you live, by the way you work with others, you're ensuring that fewer people are diminished and the world is more humane. And if you're clear about your purpose, people respect you, and you live it, people respect you as a leader.